Hey there, I'm Ian Douglas. I'm the author of the website techinterview.guide, and I'm here to help people with career advancement and interview preparation. My live stream on Twitch covers topics such as company research, how to build resumes and cover letters, applying for the job, getting through interviews, and what to do during negotiations. I've coached thousands and thousands of people over the years to get jobs at the biggest tech companies in the industry, and I'm here to help you too. The following episode is taken from a longer live stream event and may contain interactions with other people in chat. Check out the end of the episode for more information. Let's get to it. All right, this next resume says I'm a student at the Turing School of Software and Design in the back end. I'm looking for any and all feedback. I think my experience working in mental health and addiction recovery is really valuable, and I've tried to leverage that in this resume while still having major focus on my projects. I've started to like full stack a lot more, and I've been applying to some full stack positions, and they just want some general feedback. So let's dive in. There's a lot of text on this page. If I kind of zoom out, it looks a little bit heavy, but generally it's not too bad. I think we could probably thin out a little bit of what's going on here. Generally, you don't want bullet points to wrap around multiple lines. If possible, like these bullet points are like really great length. This one's a little bit long, but you know, if you can kind of keep bullet points to, you know, 2/3, maybe at most 3/4 of the width of the page or whatever container they're in, that would be ideal. But generally, you don't want bullet points to wrap around, especially if you're only wrapping around by a single word like this. So yeah, let's dive in on this one a little bit for Skeeter Corgi over here. So they've got all their pertinent information up here. They got their LinkedIn, they got their GitHub. They've also got a link to a portfolio site as well. Then they've got a summary on here. Driven, empathetic, backend software developer, dedicated to developing high-quality apps, meeting people where they are at. I thrive solving complex, multifaceted problems through collaboration. Okay, so again, when I'm reading these things over as a hiring manager, I'm reading this from a skeptical point of view of, so what? Like, why do I want you to come do that here? You're dedicated to developing high-quality apps. Okay, meeting people where they're at. Okay, but how does that help me and my company? If you want to put an emphasis on user experience, then I would call that out as, you know, I believe in, you know, empathetic user experience or something like that. Like, call it out in more specific terms about the value that you bring to that company. I thrive solving complex, multifaceted problems through collaboration, persistent learning, strong communication, analytical thinking. So some of these are going to pick up on keywords like communication and learning and things like that as an entry-level developer, which is fine. I don't get a lot of value out of this opening statement though. So again, this is where I would say, like, either ditch this statement completely and kind of thin this out a little bit vertically, or rewrite this to tell me why you're headed in the same direction as my company. So, you know, some people will say, like, just take all this off and do a cover letter. Some people are like, cover letter, don't really feel like writing a cover letter. Well, then you need to give me some context about where you're headed with your career to show why you're bringing value to my team. Personally, not a fan of like these really wide sort of column formats. I much prefer something that sort of spans horizontally across the page, where I get a better sense of what you know, but also to group things up a little more logically, because you've got language and framework. I can't write Python on Rails. I can't write JavaScript on Rails. So you could just say Rails. Or you could just leave Ruby on Rails and take Ruby off as a separate bullet point. But we've got language, framework, we've got testing framework, but then testing methodology, and then a language. Postgres should be capital SQL. I think our spec is a capital S. So you've got language, database technology, library, language. Yay, Postman. You got a tool on here. Postico is another tool for looking at database connections. GitHub, Git, I would probably just combine both of those. Consuming and exposing APIs, so that's kind of like a really high level type of backend development that you do. RESTful development, object-oriented programming, code-based deployment, project management. So I would loop all of or try to list these things in a more logical, like, these are the languages and frameworks that I know. This is the kind of test-driven development that I do. These are some of the tools that I've used, like Git, GitHub, Postgres, Postico, Postman, so on. And then these are just other skills like Agile, project management, you know, things like that. whether you specifically call out object-oriented programming, service-oriented architecture, again, will depend on whether that company calls out those keywords in their job post. Then I would leave those on there. Otherwise, I would probably take those off. If they're looking for a specific backend developer type of role, they'll probably put something about services or microservice architecture, things like that. Then I would leave SOA on here for sure. All right, software projects. They give me the name. They give me both a front end and back end. So this is a capstone project. Hey, look at this. They give me a link that I can go actually view this on Heroku. To group project, 12-day timeline. All right, cool. Don't always care like how long it took to build a project. I just want to be able to see what you built. Applied conventional, readable, maintainable code according to it. So, I mean, what is the app? You don't even tell me what the app is. Fast food. So I'm going to go out on a limb and guess this is a, hey, you know, Finite and myself and Juggling Biohazards want to get together for lunch. Where are we going to go eat lunch? Because I have no idea what this project is. You haven't told me what this project is all about. You kind of told me like what you built. You tell me things that you did with it. 100% test coverage, which is great if I care a lot about test coverage. Design a user-friendly and accessible experience with HTML Bootstrap. But did you do that or did your team do that? So this is where you have to be careful, because as a back-end developer, this makes me think that you did some of the front-end development. And so this is where you want to call out very specifically, what was your role on the team? Like if I go look at these repos, am I going to see that you contributed on that front-end repo? We're about to go find out. So let's go look at their, oops. So their GitHub is Alex Grandolph. So let's go look at the front-end repo. Yeah, they actually did contribute to the front end. Great. So that's cool. So that tells me that they are a full stack developer. So call yourself a full stack software developer or software engineer if you want to use that. In some venues, this is actually a protected title. I'd probably get rid of this dot after LinkedIn. GitHub is a capital H. So again, just being careful about those. I've talked about that quite a bit. But what is this project even about? Like the biggest thing that I see from a lot of students, not to call out Turing in a bad way, but one thing that I see from a lot of students is when you give me a link to go experience your application, it's literally a landing page with a login, and you don't tell me anything about it. You don't tell me why I should register or why I should log in. Fast food with a login. It's like you don't even tell me what this is. Search recipes, random recipe. Okay, so it's a recipe app of some kind. You're making me guess here. Like, give me some information about, like, what is this thing? Like, about the team, that's fine, but what about the app? Like, where's the about the app part of this? Like, log in with Google. Why should I even log in? Like, give me something. Give me something. Tell me something about this. Sweater weather, this was one of my favorite projects, so I already know about this one. But again, you're not telling me what the app is. You're not telling me that user can plan a road trip from point A to point B and find out the weather when they get there. You're telling me about how you consumed all these APIs, and all that stuff's fantastic from a back-end development point of view. But again, if you're positioning yourself as a full stack developer, because you've worked on full stack as this first application, this is all entirely back-end, because this was just building an API. Viewing party, consume multiple endpoints of an API. So this was a monolith repo in Rails. Poro is something to be careful about because that's a Ruby specific term. It's a plain old Ruby object. But some people don't know what a Poro is. So they're going to look at that and go, I don't know what a Poro is. But again, most people are only reading the first 5 or 6 words of a bullet point anyway. They're not reading these really long statements. From an experience point of view, the person that sent in this resume said, like, I wanted to leave this stuff on here on purpose. And I think that that's fine if this is important to me and my company. Like, if you're going to go work for, like, if I'm a mental health software company, then yeah, tell me all about how you worked in this, because that lends relevance to why you're applying for a job at my company. If my company doesn't do anything about mental health, then you don't need to give me this much detail here. I would rather see maybe a 4th project instead. Ace on the facts, warehouse manager, managed up to 15 sales associates, collaborate with upper management. So you're giving me some good information about what you did and some of the impact that you had. I would probably find ways to shorten these a little bit. But overall, like, this is fine. Now, most of these dates, you're giving me a 3-letter month, but April you spell out. So be consistent about that sort of thing. Otherwise, education seems fine. I would probably put education above your experience, though. Because again, from a hiring manager perspective, it's like, what have you done? How have you done it? And then where did you learn it? Where I've got to go all the way down to the bottom to see like how you actually learned all these, web development superpowers. So I like that you're giving me a repository. If I don't know what Heroku is, I don't know why I want to click on it. So I would probably change that link to like experience the app or something like that, or see it live or something like that. Like make it a stronger call to action. But again, the projects that you present on the resume are going to be more relevant to one particular company than another. So make sure that you're picking the most relevant things. If I'm hiring for an API developer, you're probably going to want that API project first, and then your capstone, where you can still show me that you did some API development, but you also did some front end work. And then this other one was also like a full stack application as well. But if I'm looking for an API developer, then show me this as your first project. Also, you're calling out a lot of skills here that you don't necessarily call out in here. Like, I know that you use Postman for sweater weather because I designed, that part of that project. But you don't specifically call out Postman here. So being able to call out more of the tech stack of like what you use to build the thing would be important. So yeah, from a layout point of view, again, I would try to shorten some of these so that these dates sort of stay isolated in kind of a visual column. Not that it's like an actual column, but I would try to shorten some of these statements. Like, this is a pretty long sentence here, for example. And again, if my company doesn't do anything about mental health, like, some of these bullet points don't matter. Like, yeah, you collaborated through effective written and verbal communication and so on. And data security and HIPAA, regulations and all that kind of stuff would be really important to call out here. But you want to make sure that what you're presenting on the resume is relevant to the companies where you're applying. Otherwise, they're just going to skim over and go, okay. Like, it's good to read, but how does that help me in my company? That's really what's going through their mind. When they're looking at your resume, they're like, but why should I hire you? Like, for this particular role, like, why does that matter to me and my company? Thanks for checking that out. I hope that you found it helpful. I always appreciate feedback, so please let me know what you think. I appreciate any subscriptions, so please tell your friends and colleagues about it as well. Check out the website techinterview.guide for more information about when I'm live streaming and all of my free content. Drop by a live stream anytime to ask questions or message me privately, whatever makes you most comfortable. See you next time.